Today is another day where we're working on the Supra, and we have a few things to touch up. The first thing we need to do is take off the Plasti dip from the rear bumper. Now some parts of this car are Plasti dip and other parts aren't. So the rear bumper is, I believe the side skirts are, but I don't know if the trunk and the front hood are. Well, the front hood is not, and neither are the headlights. So neither of these two things are Plasti dip, but we need to get the back stuff off. Alright, so we got a good amount of the Plasti dip off, but not a lot. I mean, that was probably the worst ASMR you could ever get. Just a halfway done job. I mean, we're starting to get it better. The issue is, since there's cracks in the paint and stuff, yeah, you can see just all these ridges. It doesn't want to peel there because it gets caught in all these. So I'm just waiting until I can get this to my work, which has a really nice pressure washer, and try to blast as much of this as I can off. But anyway, what are we actually doing on the car today? So we are doing lights. We're going to replace some of these signal lights. I got new bulbs. Do I know which ones to go to? Absolutely not. We're also going to be taking the tail lights off and tinting them red. I mean, they're red already, but this part right here is clear and has an orange, which looks a little odd. That light is not helping me out. Oh goodness, that's bright. I can't see a single thing. Let's stare at it longer. But we're gonna tint this part red so that way it just looks all nice and clean. And then we have lights for the inside as well. That's dirtier than I was anticipating. Let's close the door. So this whole mess of wires are interior lighting. It's the same type that we had for, you can't see that, that's too dark. But it's the same type of lighting that we had on the inside of the Mitsubishi, just ambient lighting for the inside. We got some for the Supra as well. They were given to me by one of my friends, which is fantastic because that's gonna make the inside look super good. As for the signal lights, I was sent out a pair of signal lights by Plasti. You guys may remember them. Look at that, good product placement. But you guys may remember them. I put a pair of LED headlights on my friend's WRX. There's also a link to it up there in the corner right now if you want to click on that. But they sent me out a pair of signal lights that are going to go and just modernize the car, because a lot of these old bulbs from the 80s and 90s, well, they're kind of dull by now. So it's a good thing to replace them anyway, but this will get us a nice refreshed look. So let's go ahead and get started, starting with the signal lights. Also, I would give a before and after, but there's just straight up no before. None of those lights work. So yeah, that's why there's none of that. So the other side was a blown bulb. This side, there's not even a bulb attached. So it's in there somewhere. All right. Back ones are really easy to get to. It's just a little panel right in here. Just, boop. Hello there. And there it is. So here are the 4 bulbs we took out. As you can see, 3 of the 4 burnt out. It's all black on the top there where it's burnt. And then this last one, this is the one on the driver's side that was just disconnected, dangling inside. So that one is all corroded. It's all corroded on the bottom, so it wasn't working anyway. Or at least if it was working, it was gonna give out super quick. So then we have all these other ones burnt out and replaced with nice fresh LEDs. Now it's super bright outside and we have more work to do, so you're not gonna get a reveal right now of what it looks like, but we're on to the next part. So the next thing we need to do is we actually need to take out the trunk liner, and we're gonna take out the trim as well, because we need to take off, that's too dark. We need to take off these tail lights. In order to do so, there's bolts along the top and along the bottom that we need to disconnect from the inside. Now you can get to them by taking off these back panels, but if you remember from the last Supra video, underneath here, we laid down a whole bunch of sound deadening. And I mentioned that we had a bunch left over, so we're going to do another layer on this as well. Mostly going through where all the trim is covering, putting the sound deadening on the places that trim is covering. So we need to take that off in order to complete it, because although this covers a lot, there's a bunch behind the trim that we are not able to seal up, which is reverbing the sound. So we just want to quiet that up a bit more. So let's go ahead and start taking everything out. look at this nut and washer they had. That's a penny. They just drilled a hole in it. That's awesome. You know what's not awesome though? These taillights aren't even attached. Same on the other side, but I popped it in, so yay. All right, full honesty mode. I decided not to take the side trims out because, well, it's just too difficult for now. Because I forgot I'd have to take all this center part out as well. And it's just a bit much for me right now, if I'm being completely honest. So, after seeing this, knowing there might be a little more work to do to the taillights than originally anticipated, especially seeing as how this wire is cut, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn the car back on, because the battery's dead, and then check all the lights to make sure everything's actually working. Because, well, if it's not, then we know what we need to address. So, that's the plan. Well, it looks like everything is at least working to an extent and has signal going. Side markers actually look pretty good. I forgot that we'd installed them already and they turned on, so that's super cool, but they look great. Can't wait for it to go to night. That was a clear sentence. I can't wait for it to be night so I can show you guys, but this is really cool. Also, do you think it's a good idea to just leave parts out here in the meantime while I'm working? I think it is. I mean, I'm not gonna lose anything. Alright, I got the tail lights out. The back sides, well, the housing had already come out, so we may have to do some slight modification to get that back in. It might be as good as time as ever to do some custom LED lights though. That may be an option. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another layer of sound deadening to the trunk while this is all out, and then get to work on the tail lights. It's time to take apart the taillights. Now I am not gonna lie, I am kind of nervous and about to get pretty frustrated. Nothing has gone wrong yet, but I will be later when things go wrong. So here's the rough layout of how we need to address this. So we have the lens here and we're going to need to remove this whole part. What we're going to do is we're going to heat up all along the edges with the heat gun, make sure it's really nice and warm. My concern is that I'm going to crack this when I'm going to take this off. The reason I'm concerned about that is because I've done it 4 times. I don't have really any success, but this time we're going to go a little slower and try to get it right. But before we do that, on the back side there's these pegs. There's 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm good at counting. So we need to take these all out because these are also holding in the lens. And they were a pain the first time I tried to take them out. It was one of the reasons they snapped. So we need to get those out. Then from there we're going to run LED lights along the outside here for day running lights. We're going to change our signal light to just be a bar across here. Our brake light we're not even going to mess with because that's the most important part. And it also means we don't have to work with resistors, which is very handy. And in my opinion, I just think it's smarter to have this entire thing light up for the brakes because it'll just make it that much easier for other cars to see when you're slowing down. won't be an issue in the long run. So that's our plan there. We have everything laid out. Yes, we need all of this in order to do our taillights. Equivalent resistors, so that way the blinkers don't cause a hyperflash. Our soldering guns in here. The actual bulb lenses themselves, LED strips here, double-sided tape, as well as extra wires, hot glue, more double-sided tape, tint, so that we could tint these black. I've never successfully done that either, but we're trying again. Extra lenses from my old Supra, electrical tape, scissors. It's gonna be fun. So anyway, sit down and enjoy the ride. And we have coffee too. So I got the second taillight done. Let me show you the good before I show you the absolutely awful, because I messed up. So I want to quickly walk you through the way that I made this. I did make a full video already way back in my prime that I put up in the top right corner where I went through how I made these LED taillights. Essentially I used the same process that I did there, but I did some minor changes. So what we're doing is we're doing strips along here that I tied into the signal light. So these two bulbs in the middle for the Mark III Supra are both running and brake lights. As you can see, I took out one of the sections. I took out this light, and this light is what's powering the outside running and brake lights. So it's two wires, one sends a signal for the running light, one sends a signal for the brake light. I combined them together since the LED takes so little power compared to the bulb, like these old style bulbs, that the voltage difference in the original signal would make absolutely no light difference on these LEDs. So I combine them together and run them one all the way around. So this light will always have the same brightness. It'll never be a brake or a running light. It'll always just be a running light. Now, as you can see, I switched out this bulb for an LED bulb. So what this bulb does is that some of the LEDs light up for the running light, and then it flashes and lights up the rest of the LEDs for the brake light. This way it'll be very obvious for other cars to know that I am braking. So I am running this light in the background as well as these other ones. Personally, it's more for peace of mind for the fact that since I don't have another brake light like this one will make it a lot more obvious when I am slowing down and save me from, if worst case scenario goes wrong and one of these goes out or comes disconnected, I'll still have my normal brake light. As for my signal light, it's this LED strip along here, right in the middle. It just all flashes. It's not sequential, but we have our equivalence resistor to make sure that we're not getting hyper flash, and then this is connected right in through there through the signal on the side. The exact same process was used on this other taillight as well. Now here's the bad, and I'm really pissed off at myself for it. These are the taillight lenses, and they're not supposed to have that. Yeah. So here's what happened, and I'm so mad at myself because I knew it was going to happen, or I was afraid something like this was going to happen, and I was telling myself not to do it, and then I was like, you know what? I'm overthinking it. It's not going to happen, and it happened. So what I was going to do is in order to reattach these lights, you need to heat it up so this glue on the side reheats so it can reseal itself and become waterproof. Now, instead of using a heat gun along here, which I was afraid was going to take too long to heat up along here and then too long to heat up along there. So I was like, I'm just going to stick these lenses in for a shorter time than the whole thing at a slightly lower temperature, and then I'll take it out, the glue will be soft, and I'll put it back in. Unfortunately, it warped the end. And same on this other one as well. So now I need to buy new taillight lenses for the Supra. And of course, everything is incredibly overpriced right now for the Supras. People are asking way more money than they're worth. They're asking hundreds of dollars for taillights when I've gotten them for $45 with a small crack in them before. So unfortunately, that's the supermarket right now. Everyone is jacking up prices way more than they're worth, and people are paying them, which is more power to them, but really annoying for people like myself who are working on a tight budget. So anyway, that's essentially what's going on here. It's a disappointing end to the video because I really wanted to have all these lights done for the end of this, but now I gotta wait until I get taillights. So I'm really sorry that this is a disappointing way to end it, but this means I can make a part 2. So see you then.